It's Wednesday, September 17, 2025, and I'm tracking a few weather systems across the U.S. and even a newly formed tropical storm out in the Atlantic. Gabrielle just became a tropical storm, so it's a newly formed system, and that'll be heading off to the northwest, affecting places like Bermuda. Meanwhile, we have several weather systems going on across the country, including one over Florida, one in the Midwest, a dying coastal system in the Northeast, and what's left of Tropical Storm Mario entering Southern California. First, we'll talk about Tropical Storm Gabrielle. It's a newly formed system that will be heading off to the northwest and could potentially affect Bermuda as a hurricane. At least that is the National Hurricane Center's forecast over the next few days. Winds right now 50 miles per hour, millibars about 1,000, and heading northwest about 14 miles per hour. And here's a look at the spaghetti plot models. You can see most of the members take it pretty close to Bermuda, although there are a few members that take it a little farther out to sea, and some that try to bring it closer to Florida, but those are outliers at this point. The main risk is certainly going to be to Bermuda over the next few days. And this is a zoomed in look on that hurricane track here from the National Hurricane Center. Bermuda very much in the cone, although not in the center of the track, but this will be something we'll watch very closely as the storm gets closer to the island. We most likely will see a Category 1 hurricane, a weak one at that, but it could bring some impacts to the island. And here's the wind forecast as Gabrielle gets closer to Bermuda. Notice how the wind field doesn't really hold together that well here in the American model, so there is a chance that the storm does weaken, although the National Hurricane Center does think there'll be some strengthening that goes on. So there is some disagreement between the models and the forecasters here, but most likely the National Hurricane Center will be on point with this, and there will be some stronger winds as the storm gets closer. And here's the wind speed forecast as we head into the 21st to the 23rd. As Gabrielle approaches Bermuda, we will see those wind speeds most likely tropical storm strength. So this is something we'll be monitoring over the next few days with the forecast here. We will also have some pretty impressive wave heights just offshore. Although the island is pretty well fortified for this, there will be some waves most likely 10 foot plus as Gabrielle gets closer. Maybe even as high as 15 feet, but it all depends on how well the storm holds together in along that track. So if it does stay on the eastern side of the island, the heaviest or strongest impacts, including waves and wind, should stay to the east of the island. Still will be some impacts there, but not quite as bad as if the island were on the eastern side of the storm rather than the western side, which is predicted. Aside from Gabrielle, there is an opportunity for a couple of waves coming in off of Africa to potentially develop into more tropical systems. Right now, it's only a 20% risk, but this could increase over the next few days. So this will be something we watch very closely as these waves start to move over open water. So behind Gabrielle, the next storm on the list will be Umberto. So we're going to be tracking the next few storm systems here as we work through the next few weeks. Most likely we'll get through a few more names before the season is done. So if you have a particular name you think will be the worst storm on the season, certainly leave a comment below. I'll be interested to see which storm you think could be the worst. Now we head over to the Pacific where we have a 90% chance of development as we head through the next 5 days. And this is on the heels of Tropical Storm Mario. So it's in the same location, which means there isn't a ton of great ingredients for rapid development for a storm. So I do think the next storm system will be on the weaker side here, most likely maybe just tropical storm strength again, but there could be another system that develops even behind this as the Eastern Pacific remains pretty active. And here's the wind gust forecast from the American model here. You can see that storm system dies out pretty quick, but another one most likely to form right behind it. So it doesn't look like we're going to see a ton of strong development out of these systems here in the Eastern Pacific, and the main reason why is because the ingredients just aren't as good as they were earlier in the season. And speaking of Tropical Storm Mario, we do have what's left of that storm moving into California. It's no longer a tropical system, but there is a flood watch for a good portion of Southern California here, and that is for upwards of 1 to 3 inches of rainfall across a good portion of the state here, which could produce some localized flash flooding. So this is something we have to keep an eye on as we head through the next 48 to 72 hours. The Weather Prediction Center has also highlighted a good portion of this area with a level 2 out of 4 risk for excessive rainfall, which would be flash flooding in this case. So this is something that is a little on the excessive side of things for the monsoon season. It's not completely out of character because it is a tropical system, and Southern California occasionally gets these, but this is certainly something to keep an eye on as the ground's still pretty dry out there, even though we've seen some rain, but this is a lot more rain than we've seen so far this season. And this is the future forecast here. You can see those showers from Mario making their way into parts of Southern California, especially through some of the higher terrain. And I do think we will see a little bit of localized flooding and even could see some thunderstorms out of this. So we will see some lightning and thunder as well. But at least at this point, no severe weather expected aside from the heavy rain. So looking at that rainfall forecast, you can see some pockets here where we do have in excess of 2, even 3 inches of rain across the area. So this storm system is going to put down the numbers in terms of heavy rain, and that's why we have that risk for that localized flash flooding. Now we head over to the plains, where there is a risk of severe weather for tomorrow. This risk is a level 1 out of 5, but it wouldn't surprise me if it's increased to a level 2 out of 5 as we head into the afternoon for a good portion of this area. Not the entire highlighted area, but some of it could see an increase, and that would mainly be for some small to medium-sized hail and some wind gusts in excess of 60 miles per hour. At this point, no tornado risk, but I can't rule out maybe an isolated tornado with the system, as there was some of that action today in parts of Colorado. And you can see with the future forecast here, as that storm system progresses into the plains, there will be another expansion of storms tomorrow afternoon across the eastern plains going into parts of the Midwest. And some of those storms may be part of a complex into the afternoon, producing some gustier winds is the main concern, but maybe even some hail, and can't rule out an isolated tornado. Next, we head over to southern Florida, where we have another round of heavy rain, showers, and storms through the day again tomorrow. It's really just been a rinse and repeat forecast for South Florida here, and more of the same pushing into the day tomorrow, where we could see an excess of 3 to even 5 inches of rain in spots. And here's that rainfall forecast across the area. You can see those pockets of orange. That's where we could see in excess of 4 inches of rain, maybe even 5 inches. And this will be as we see a few thunderstorms over the area. So it probably won't come down all at once, but we will see at least a few rounds of storms and more heavy rain as we head through the day. It does get a little drier for the weekend, but there's still some storm risks even there as we head through the next several days. Then we head up to the northeast, where that coastal storm that's been affecting the East Coast for several days now, from North Carolina now all the way up into New England, will produce a few showers going into coastal Maine through the day tomorrow. But at least the wind forecast has calmed down quite a bit with this system. It was very windy across North Carolina, Virginia, and Maryland, where they had wind gusts in excess of 50 miles per hour. It really was tropical storm strength, but is now weakened quite a bit. Of course, it was never a tropical system. It was a coastal storm, but now it's going to be heading off to the north, where it will go to the coastal storm graveyard and eventually die out up into the Canadian Maritimes. So looking ahead, we have a few things to watch over the next few days here. Gabrielle will intensify as it gets closer to Bermuda, so we're going to keep a close eye on that track. And that's as the tropics stay hot. Both the Atlantic and the Pacific are going to be pretty active over the next few weeks here. We also have more severe weather, most likely, as that storm system across the Midwest moves eastward, and then the remnants of Tropical Storm Mario will most likely be producing some stronger storms as we head into next week. I also have the fall and winter outlooks as our next video coming up for the weekend. So we'll be talking about both of those as we head through the fall season, and I'll let you know just how bad winter could look for some of the country. Thanks for tuning in. I'll have updates on all these things over the next several days.